Now, as promised, this is part 2 with Eric Metaxas. The book is called Bonhoeffer, Pastor, Martyr, Prophet, Spy. An amazing biography, the first one in 40 years, on this remarkable Christian leader in Germany who stood up to the Nazi war machine and ended up giving his life as a result. Welcome back, Eric.
Thanks for having me.
Let's just pick up where we left off. We covered sort of the DNA of his early life yesterday. I want to get into what happened in Germany. You know, all of us have had a lot of exposure to the Second World War in terms of documentaries, books. Everybody knows that nobody wants to call their son Hitler or Adolf, and rightly so, we understand that. I didn't realize until reading your book, however, that, now tell me if I'm wrong here, that a lot of the fuel for at least the initial stages of the rise of Hitler related not only to the general ignorance of the German populace with regard to what he was up to. I mean, most people didn't understand what he was up to until he was up to it. But also Versailles, the Treaty of Versailles, had really wounded German pride.
This is, I mean, there's a lot more to it than that, but obviously I had to answer, I mean, because I grew up as a German, my mom is German, grew up in Germany, to understand what happened. And for anybody who thinks of themselves as a Christian, you can't just say, oh, well, this is a one-off, the Germans were evil, because that is itself racism, okay? Yeah. If you believe anti-Semitism is wrong, well, being an anti-German is just the same thing. It's to hate a group of people. Yeah. And I realized that this is a group of human beings no different than any other group of human beings, subject to temptation. The Germans, it was like a perfect storm. You could see that they were deeply wounded. I mean, they were crushed. It's so easy for us to sit back and go, well, that wouldn't have happened to me. I would have. They were crushed. People didn't have food to eat. They were miserable. They were looking for a way out. And what is the human temptation always is to look to a man, to look to a political leader, to look to somebody other than God. And they looked to Hitler as a messianic figure. Nobody dreamt that he would be who he became. Nobody understood that. Nobody really understood. I don't think Hitler himself in 1933 knew what he would do after the war began. I mean, wickedness that we can't even comprehend. Your average German had no idea about this. And so they were looking to him. And Bonhoeffer was really a voice in the wilderness, a prophetic figure crying out, trying to warn people that where this is going is ugly. There's a wickedness at the core here, and that the church needs to stand up. He was a voice trying to speak out to the church and to warn the church at what was happening. But the Germans really were so badly fooled, and many Christians were fooled. There's just no doubt about it. And I give chapter and verse on this, and that's why it's a long book. It's an amazing story of how it's possible for the church to be fooled, because the Nazis said a lot of good things about God and so on and so forth. They didn't believe a syllable, but they said it because they knew, if I don't say this, if we don't get the people on our side, we won't have the power to do what we want to do. So it's just it's an amazing story, but I think it applies to us today. We're no different. We need to keep our eyes open. We need to read this as a warning of what can happen to good people. And the Germans, many of them were good people, and many of them were even good Christian people, and they were fooled.
Now, you talk about the church. Bonhoeffer and Barth were instrumental in, Karl Barth, the famous German theologian, in establishing what's called the confessing church.
Right.
And we'll get to that in a minute. But Hitler, who was no dummy, wanted to appear to be a Christian.
Yeah.
He sets up a national church, the Reich Church.
Yeah.
And some of the tenets of this Nazi church, the national church, as they called it, demands immediate cessation of the publishing and dissemination of the Bible.
Well, that's where it was going. They never got there.
Did they never get
because
there?
Hitler was too canny. He knew politically this wouldn't work, but he knew that over time we're going to take over the church. And he had a number of really pagan ideologues, bitterly anti-Christian people who were saying that this is where we're moving. Well, let's not abolish the church. Let's change the church from within and Nazify it over the course of time. And that's why I put all this in the book.
Yeah.
And you're going to get an education if you read it.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
clear away from its altars all crucifixes, Bibles, and pictures of saints. On the altars there must be nothing but Mein Kampf.
Okay, now, think about this. Now, listen, we have to understand that Heydrich and Himmler, they're the ultimate villains in this book, worse even than Hitler, if you can believe it, they were bitterly anti-Christian. They despised Christianity, and they wanted to raise up kind of an occultic neo-pagan religion. That would be the German religion. And of course, one of the tenets of that religion is hate and kill the Jews. The Jews are the enemy. Germans are, you know, the ultimate. I mean, it's utterly racial. It's diabolical. It's satanic. Yeah. And I go into the whole thing about what is the theology of the Nazis, because people don't know. What did they really believe? What did Hitler believe? What did his lieutenants? What did they believe? And what were they doing? And that's when you understand what Christians were up against, because some Christians understood this. Bonhoeffer understood this. But many Christians didn't realize what they were up against. They thought, well, you know, we can work with Hitler. He's not perfect. I mean, a lot of times where I'm from, the United States, there's a politician, he agrees with us on this and this and this. He's not a Christian, but, well, you know, you have that situation here. They made a political bargain that Hitler's going to help us in these areas, but they had no idea that this man's agenda was not middle of the road. His agenda was evil, genuinely evil. And it's very rare as Christians that we encounter evil, and that's why I think it's an important story and a lesson for us. What happens to the church when we encounter real evil? That is the story of
real
Bonhoeffer.
Evil, absolutely. Now, time is marching on. One of the things that offended Bonhoeffer the most, as well as many other strong believers in Germany, was Hitler's desire to basically wipe out all Jews.
Right. Most Germans didn't know this. Bonhoeffer knew this because he was very connected to people in government who actually knew what was going on. But most people in Germany didn't realize what Hitler wanted to do, at least on this level.